So just when you think things could not get worse for the Pittsburgh Penguins, they said, hold my beer. And another devastating loss for this team. In today's episode of Locked On Penguins podcast, we are going to get into all of that, why the Dumoulin and Carter problem needs to be addressed today, not tomorrow, not Friday, not Saturday, but today. We're going to get into other players who I thought really struggled tonight, why this loss was not on Casey Smith, and why Mike Sullivan really needs to address, the Dumoulin Carter problem and why he needs to stop being stubborn with a couple other things as well. We're going to dive into all that plus so much more about this game coming up right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @LawrencePenguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So coming in today, I was looking at some tickets. They were a bit expensive. Kind of wanted to go, but I was like, maybe I'll save it for another game. And then my buddy texted me saying like, hey, got a couple of tickets I'm looking to sell. These are the price. This is the price I'm looking for. And, ended up taking my buddy, Darren, D_nasty on Penguins Twitter, one of my favorite follows and just a great person overall. Thanks for coming. If you're listening to this, Darren. And, I got to see the team below a 4-goal lead, which is something that you don't really see every day. That's for sure. The Penguins played a great first period. They blitzed Detroit. Game wasn't looking close. Second period, they played fine. The Red Wings scored a couple of goals off broken sticks. Okay, you go into the third, the vibe's still good. The first 13 to 14 minutes of the period, you're not allowing any goals. You're thinking, okay, the Red Wings are going to pull their goalie probably soon. And the final 5 minutes happened, and then the overtime happened, and you come out with a pretty pathetic loss. This was a disgusting, deplorable, embarrassing, whatever word you want to call it, kind of loss for the Penguins. You knew once the Red Wings got that third goal with 5 minutes left, like, okay, I don't know if they're going to win this game. And you saw them take that stupid too many men penalty with 3:19 left. If they don't take that penalty, we might be having a completely different conversation right now. But that was just a really dumb play by the Penguins there because the Red Wings really weren't doing that much at 5v5 after that goal that made it 4-3. And then, Wallman in overtime just gritties on the ice like a full-on Zach Wilson experience with the New York Jets against the Pittsburgh Steelers about a couple of months ago. You can't get grittied in your own arena like that, especially by a no-name player. Like, that guy's a freaking tweener. Guy scored his second goal this season. Again, that's like literally getting grittied by Zach Wilson. And I understand Zach Wilson's a former number 2 overall pick, but he's bad. He's just a bad quarterback. That Jake Wallman's just not a good hockey player, so you can't get grittied like that on your home rink. But this loss, again, another situation where they continue to ice Brian Dumoulin and Jeff Carter in high leverage situations. I don't care that Jeff Carter scored tonight. He scored on a wide open net. I don't care that he also had his 400th assist tonight. Okay, cool. What the heck ever. But, the fact that they're continuing to ice them in big time situations, it is stupid. And that's on Mike Sullivan. And, you all listen to this show. I'm a huge fan of Mike Sullivan. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. He has done an outstanding job ever since taking over for this team in 2015. But right now, he's being way too stubborn with those 2 players and the lineup decisions. Here's an example from tonight. Drew O'Connor gets things going with the opening goal, right? It's a shot that probably Billy Husso should have had, but he gets things going. After that, he played only 7 shifts. But yet, you're continuing to ice veterans like Dumoulin and Carter with the game on the line with 5 minutes left in the third period, and then you're icing Carter out in overtime with less than 3 minutes to go. He wins the faceoff, gets bullied by Perron, and then the Wings go down. They get a chance, it doesn't go in, the Penguins go down, and Carter's still on the ice at that point. They don't score, and then the Wings go down, they score, and then obviously the gritty happens with Wallman. But it's like, what are these lineup decisions? Like, I don't understand the logic that is going into them, and this needs to be fixed today. Today. And the stats right now, they are ugly. And so here's one for you. Jeff Carter has been deployed with Brian Dumoulin and Jan Ruta for almost 90 minutes this season. During that time, the Penguins have been outscored 7-1, and they only have 28% of the expected goals. That means the opposition has 72% of the expected goals on the other side of the rink. That's pathetic. And I don't know why Mike Sullivan doesn't see this. It is stupid. It is coaching malpractice. It is, to borrow a famous Tomlinism here from the football team, they're living in their fears. Mike Tomlin always likes to say that the Steelers don't live in their fears, right? Even though they do at times. Mike Sullivan, he's living in his fears right now. He is fearful to take these players out of the lineup and to replace them with younger, better players. And it's costing them big time, especially two of these last three games. The game at home against Carolina on Thursday. Brian Rust, the goal of the year right there for the Penguins. Who's on the ice that gives up the game-tying goal? Brian Dumoulin. Tonight, who is on the ice for multiple goals against, especially in late situations? Brian Dumoulin again, especially on the penalty kill. And I know the PK has been really good for the last couple of months, but for some reason, with 3:19 to go, Mike Sullivan sends out 3 of the 4 penalty killers. Jan Ruta, Brian Dumoulin, and Jeff Carter. What are we doing, Mike? I really do not understand that. And here's another stat that is probably going to blow your mind. That trio of Dumoulin, Ruta, and Carter. And I think Jan Ruta, for the most part, has been fine this year. I think he's being, boggled down by Dumoulin. But that trio, they've been together for 19 minutes on the penalty kill this season. During that time, the Penguins have given up 5 goals. 5 goals in 19 minutes. You want to do the math on that? 15 goals per 60 minutes. And you all know that hockey is a 60-minute sport, right? Of course, you're listening to the show. That's a baffling head coaching decision. It's coaching scared. It's being stubborn. I understand that these guys are veterans. I understand they have played a lot of games at the NHL level. They have won championships for their teams, but it's not hard to see that both are shot. In this case, Carter and Dumoulin. I think Ruta still has more to give. I don't think he has been that good lately, but I also don't think he's been that bad. But, these two players, they stink. It is past time to take Brian Dumoulin out of the lineup. He has no confidence right now. Every time when I was watching him take the puck tonight, he was handling it like a grenade. In the defensive zone, he was ripping the puck up the boards right to Red Wings players, throwing it right out in front of the net. When Malkin anyone was on the ice with Dumoulin, they would try to get to the point. He would just fumble the puck. It's honestly reminding me a lot right now of a late stage Rob Scuderi. You all remember that, of course, right? He had nothing. He was just shot at that point. That is who I think this is reminding me of when it comes to Dumoulin. It's not Jack Johnson level bad. It's late stages Rob Scuderi. With Jeff Carter, again, maybe he gives you more value on the wing if you can go out and get a decent third line center, but he is killing, whatever line that he is on, no matter if it's the third or the fourth line. You all want to look at the expected goals tonight as well per money puck. It's not good again tonight. The Heinen Carter McGinn line at 5-on-5, 21% of the expected goals, 30% of the shot attempts, 28.6% Fenwick percentage. Garbage. In comparison, the O'Connor Bluger Kapanen line, which was the Penguins' 4th line tonight, 72.5% of the expected goals to 5v5, 66.7% of the shot attempts to 5v5. For Fenwick, 75% of those chances. The 4th line is badly outplaying that 3rd line. 3rd line has just been a black hole all year. So every decision that Mike has been making with those two players has just been crazy. I have no clue why Rickard Raquel did not see the ice in overtime. That was another thing that baffled me, especially, Carter going in over him. I would have just put Teddy Bluger out there in that situation. He's playing better than Carter is right now. This was only Carter's 4th goal of the season when you take away an empty net. So this needs to be fixed now. It is past time. Mike Sullivan needs to be pressed about this a lot more. I'm not saying that he needs to be fired or anything like that, but it is past time to make changes to the lineup when it comes to those players and maybe a couple others if you want to juggle the lines and stuff. They cannot continue to try to win hockey games with the way those players are playing, especially where they are in the lineup. It's garbage coaching. It's absolute and utter trash. That's all I have to say on that situation. Coming up in the second segment, we're going to get into just Mike Sullivan as a whole, I think, and why I think some people are taking it a little too far, in my opinion, just because it's a 3-game losing streak. But before I get to that, BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball and the World Cup. We've got it all at BetOnline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. You can head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, I almost said Mike Sullivan, Hunter Hodes. Follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO or Script. Wow, I have never done that before over the 3 years that I have been doing this show. I just had Mike Sullivan on my mind, and we're going to get to him right now even more. Saw some people come into my social media mentions tonight and said, "Oh, time to clean house, time to fire Mike. The team has gone stale and all that." And none of this was being said when the team was red hot, going into that game against Carolina last weekend. And I understand this is a results-oriented business. Losses tend to bring out, I guess, the worst in some people just because of the hot takes. Do I think Mike Sullivan needs to be doing more for the team right now? Absolutely. I spent 10 minutes in the first segment ranting about the changes that he needs to make. But am I going to be calling for his head or anything? No. And honestly, to the people that want him fired, I am sorry to tell you this. His seat is not even close to lukewarm right now. It ain't hot either. This is a new ownership group that just signed him to an extension this past offseason. In case you all forgot, he's extended to at least the 2026, 2027 NHL season. They could literally lose probably every game this season and not make the playoffs. He's probably not getting fired. I mean, they're probably going to make the playoffs. I mean, I'm not going to bet against Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. And this team is also back to 3rd place in the Metro, even while losing this game. And they can get to 2nd place in the Metro by beating the New Jersey Devils at home on Friday night. But Mike Sullivan is not going to get fired. He is a great coach still. I truly believe that. His system does work. It has proven to work time and time again. I think people, when they look at the past playoff losses, they make these broad statements that they haven't done anything with him at the helm, but they fail to realize, what has gone into those playoff losses. And I know each one is different, but there's been one common denominator: goaltending, and goaltending. They've gotten garbage goaltending ever since 2018. Not much a coach can do with that. I mean, again, I know it's a results-oriented business. There's really not much they can do. And, look what he's also done with the team, to get to the playoffs, especially with all the issues they've had and all that. So, I do think, he's mostly fine, but has it been a little stale lately? Yes. Does he need to make some major changes with the lineup? Yes, especially with the 2 players that I've talked about, but I'm not going to sit here and say that he should be fired or anything like that. I think that's just a little too far for me. I'm trying to be as objective as I can. I understand that you as fans that listen to the show and everyone out there that watches this team, you get emotional. I get it. It's sports. People are very passionate about their sports teams, but people just gotta calm down for a bit, step away from the keyboard, your phone, all that. Just to take a chill pill. He's still a great coach, but I also understand that it is past time to make those changes and he needs to stop being a bit stubborn and getting in his own way, because I do think he is leaning a bit too hard on loyalty right now and pass appearances, especially with someone like Brian help the Penguins early on in his. He was playing great hockey when he got called up in 2015 when half the defense was out. 2016 and 2017, he was obviously great. 2018, 2019, 2020 was fine. But, last season was really when it started to go downhill. They took a chance on it, and they're paying the price. I don't know if Ron Hextall is going to go in there and have a meeting with Mike and talk to them about it. But, I'd like to think that Mike is smart enough to realize that what he's doing with the lineup is not working, and that he needs to make some changes with it. Another example, put Ty Smith in. He was just recalled today for the first time. I understand they wanted to go with Mark Friedman just because he's been up there and he's a righty, so they don't really want to put Smith on his offside. All right, but I still think Smith should get some minutes in over Dumoulin. Why not? He brings more offense. Defensively, he's mostly fine. He played good in the preseason and in training camp. He's played fine in Wilkes-Barre. See what he has. I honestly can guarantee you it's probably not going to be as bad as it has been with Dumoulin. That's just how I see it, but I really don't think it has been as bad. And then with the Carter situation with that, move him to wing, or better yet, you can scratch him, because again, I think the more minutes that these players play, the worse off the team is going to be down the road. So that's really all I have to say about Mike in that situation. I do think a couple other players need to start stepping up a little bit more. I thought Jake Gensel was horrible tonight. I haven't really noticed him that much these last few games. I guess it's just kind of a little bit of a dry spell for him, but he needs to wake up a little bit. And I'm not going to sit here and dump on the guy, but he needs to be better. I thought that was one of his worst games of the season. I thought of Evgeny Malkin. He's been fighting the last couple nights, just hasn't been as consistent. Definitely needs to, just to tone it down, I think, a little bit in all three zones. Chris Letang was fine. Sid, he had a couple glorious chances that did not find the back of the net. But yeah, I mean, it's really hard to focus on anything else when it comes to this loss, other than, just the two players who continue to stick out in some coaching malpractice from Mike Sullivan, because, some of these decisions, they are losing the Penguins games, and, they're obviously costing them points in the standings. So it's not good enough, to say the least. But that wraps it up for this segment of the Locked On Penguins podcast. Coming up in the final segment, I am going to touch on some things that the Penguins did right tonight. I know it's a terrible loss. You want me to all be negative, but I got to get into some of the positives that I did like from this game that the Penguins can take out of it heading into Friday's game against the Devils. So stick around for that coming up right after this. All right, I'm back here in this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @LRSPenguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So, positives. Again, I know not many there, but the first period happened, and I liked a lot of what I saw. Jason Zucker was a man on a mission tonight. I think he read a lot of people who were talking crap about him. He gets two coming into this game. He had one goal in his prior 14 games. He was a menace around the rink. It looked like he was going to get a hat trick on numerous occasions. He's awesome. Really think he can build off that. He has been amazing for the Penguins all season. Yeah, he's been a little bit cold as of late. I think some of the bounces just haven't gone his way, but he surely got those tonight. He's been one of the Penguins' most consistent top six players this season. You really can't even harp on him that much this season. He's missed a couple of games with an injury. That's it. Really great to see him in the lineup again and get those couple of goals. Drew O'Connor, he gets his first goal of the season. Really solid job from him on that shift. Gets a nice shot past Ville Husso, a goal that he probably should have had. So I thought that was really weak by Husso there, which, one of the goals that ended up having him get pulled from the game. But I really like O'Connor's game in all three zones. I think he's responsible defensively, has that really nice wrist shot, can play, on the third or fourth line. He's one of the good young players from Wilkes-Barre that is NHL ready. It's just, can Mike Sullivan play him a bit more while Poehling and Archibald are out there? Obviously, they're on IR right now, retroactive to their dates. 18th, I believe it, for Archibald, the 20th for Poehling. Poehling has been practicing as of late, so with the retroactive to the 20th, he can come back a bit sooner. We'd probably expect him back after the New Year, Winter Classic. But I still want to see more of O'Connor and what he can bring on a nightly basis. I just don't want him to only play 7 shifts a night. I just, you're micromanaging there for the sake of micromanaging. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I really liked Kasperi Kapanen's game tonight. The 2 passes or the 2 assists that he had early on in that period were awesome. Just the passes he made, great. He's been a lot better over the last week. And yeah, he's kind of been a lightning rod, for the Penguins. Is that the best way to say it? Lightning rod. And it just feels, he's, up and down and all that. But tonight, in the last couple of games, I think he played really well. So someone tried to throw him in there with Dumoulin and Carter, and I disagree with that. I think he's been playing much better hockey as of late. I also will say Casey DeSmith played a very fine game tonight. I know he gave up 5 goals. It's not going to show up on the stat sheet. He made some timely saves for this team. He is not the reason they lost. No, he had no chance on any of those 5 goals, especially on the first 2 where the Penguins were literally without one of their players was literally without a stick. A 4-1 goal, for example. Basically a 5-on-3.5 for the Red Wings. They get the goal. And then the second one, Sid has his stick break. Sure enough, the Red Wings score on that towards the end of the second period. So some bad luck there. If the sticks don't break, maybe the Red Wings don't score. But that's how that's how it goes sometimes. But he made some big time saves for the Penguins. He wasn't really flopping around in his net. He was staying aggressive, making the saves that he needed to make, and bailing them out on a number of occasions. Again, he is not the reason why they lost. And I thought that was a big bounce back game from him. This should have been an easy win, but again, that's the break sometimes when it comes to the NHL. I understand Jeff Carter scored in the first period. I already got into him a bit there. Those were my main pause in terms of players that I did want to take out of this performance. I thought all the ones I just mentioned played very well. And if they can continue that play into the game on Friday, I think the Penguins will have a good shot at winning unless they just barf all over themselves in the final 40 minutes. And, that comes with the territory. They got to start putting together 60 full minutes of games. You cannot play one good period in the league and expect to just coast your way through the final 40 minutes. And that's what the Penguins were honestly doing in the second innings. They were kind of just like, hey, we played one good period. We're up 4 goals. Let's just kind of, let's just skate on by. Let's just, glide around, not really do anything. And I know the Red Wings haven't played well as of late. They came into this game having lost, 7 out of 10? They're banged up. These teams are going to throw everything they have at you, especially after the Penguins just played a game on Long Island on Tuesday. So there's no excuse to play like that in the final 40 minutes. That was a gross effort by the Penguins, and it needs to change. They have to stop doing this where they play ugly, undisciplined hockey for large stretches of games where it's costing them points in the standings. You win that game against Carolina right now, right? And you win that game tonight. You have two extra points. You're tied for second right now, at least with the New Jersey Devils. They gotta stop throwing away points and being inconsistent in these games and playing stupid, especially late in third periods. I know the Red Wings scored to make 4-3 with 5 minutes left, but after that, the Red Wings really weren't doing anything the next minute and a half to minute 40 until the Penguins took a really stupid penalty. I actually would have liked to see how they would have defended that lead in the final 3 minutes had the Penguins not taken that penalty. And yeah, I trusted the penalty kill to get the job done because coming into this game, they had killed off 23 straight penalties in the road, and they're the number 1 penalty kill team in the league. But, asking them to always bail you out, that's not a recipe for success. It's just stupid, undisciplined hockey, and it needs to change now. Funny thing is, with a win on Friday, Penguins can get up to second place in the Metropolitan Division because the Devils, I do not believe, I'm just making sure, I was making sure of the score tonight. Yeah, they lost 3-1 to the Boston Bruins. And yes, the Devils do not play tomorrow. So with a win on Friday, Penguins can get to second place in the Metro or tie for second. Even though they've had a couple losses here where things are just not going their way. So, yeah, I get it. The vibes are bad. Just playing like garbage. 3-on-3 stinks. A couple players who shouldn't be in the lineup are in the lineup right now. But I'm here to tell you all it's not the end of the world. If they can make a couple of these changes, get things back on the right track, they're playing winning hockey before you know it. I guarantee it. But again, thank you all so much for listening. Really appreciate it. I'll be back with you all on Thursday for a full preview for that game on Friday against the Devils. I said that will be the first of 4 meetings between the two teams this season. So again, thank you all so much for listening. I know it was a rough game tonight, but we'll see how they respond on Friday. I'll talk to you all on Thursday.